Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for tuning in again to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. I am sitting here with Miss Sophia Casey. Sophia is a master certified coach, best-selling author, and CEO of Sophia Casey Enterprises and ICLI Rising. And she empowers global leaders through transformative coaching, leadership training, and also draws from her executive experience in government and private sectors. Sophia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sometimes when I hear my own bio, I'm like, dang, girlfriend, a little stuff. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, we have lots of ground to cover today. I know we had a pretty good conversation before, but
Great
now
conversation.
we're gonna slide into it now. But before we do like to have an icebreaker on the show. And the question for you today is, which cartoon character do you resonate with the most and why?
Telling you, Chris, it came to me well, I guess I probably was about 20,000 feet up on a plane ride as I was traveling to go speak at a conference. It is Inspector Gadget. It's Inspector Gadget. I used to love that show. And it's Inspector Gadget because Inspector Gadget always had so many tools. And not just tools, but he was always problem solving. And sometimes the tools that he chose, they didn't work. They didn't all work, right? They didn't work, but he didn't stop just because they didn't work. And I also thought about this and I said, he also wasn't on his own. He had the other characters. He always had support. Let's see, Penny, I know was one of them. I cannot remember the other character's name, but he always had support. And I thought about it and, he didn't dwell in perfectionism. He was like, let's get it done. Let's get it done. Okay, that tool didn't work. Oh, let's try. I got something else. Let me pull something else out. Now that I say that, I'm also thinking about Felix the cat was the same way. I don't know if Felix had help though. But yeah, Inspector Gadget, I would say that. That's mine.
No, thank you for sharing that. I like that. I haven't. I think you're the first person that has said Inspector Gadget, which is interesting because you're right. He's got all those tools, and yeah, there was Penny and Brain, and
Yeah,
I think the dog's
Brain.
name was
I said
yeah.
Brain. Yes, Penny and Brain. Right.
Thing.
And you can do it by yourself.
I love that. Definitely do. So we'll slide into it a little easy here. So, Sophia, how would you define procrastination, and what does it mean to you personally?
Well, when I think about procrastination, I could say a whole lot of stuff, like a whole lot of definitions. I could paint a whole colorful picture. And for me, what it comes down to is fear. Now, it made the level of fear, I feel maybe different for the person, different for the situation. But when you really think about it, there's something that you are fearful about. And I feel like that fear, I believe it's fear and perfectionism, but perfectionism and fear, I say go together too. I feel like perfectionism is right there in that same bucket. But there's something about, I feel like we use the word procrastination a lot to hide or to cover up or to pretty up the fear. Like, who's going to come and say, well, you know why I didn't get that done? And I haven't written that book. This is a true story for one of my clients. The reason I haven't written that book in 26 years is because I was afraid. I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid I wouldn't be good enough. I was afraid that it would take me away from my children because my children were very young at that time. She doesn't mind me sharing the story. I share it all the time. And it came down to fear. It wasn't because she was lazy, that just gets under my skin. When people just automatically think, oh, this person's procrastinating or hasn't done something because they're lazy. She wasn't lazy. She is a brilliant, brilliant person. But it came down to fear. So she hired me. We started working together. She finished that book and published the book in 3 months. Something that took 26 years. And of course, she kept hiding under, oh, my children are too young. Well, my husband just started this new job. Oh, this and all that. But when we really started to dive into the conversation, that's what came out. It was fear. And it wasn't going to be good enough. So there's that perfectionism again. Yeah. So I do believe a lot of times we disguise that fear, because it takes a lot of vulnerability to be able to say that, gosh darn it, I'm scared. You don't hear a lot of people say that. And I feel like we really disguise a lot of our fear under procrastination. I don't have the time. Even I don't. And I just feel like if you dive, just dig a little deeper, is it really about not having the money? Is it really not about not having the time? It's about fear of being judged, fear that you're not good enough, that what you have is not good enough. Who you are is not good enough. So I'll get off my soapbox for right now. That's what I feel.
No, thank you for sharing that, and a lot of great insight in there. We all know that there's no, bulletproof or 100% ironclad, way of getting over it for everybody. But what would be your secret sauce to getting over?
Well, I think about, as I was preparing to come and talk to you, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad this conversation is about procrastination. Because I rarely go there. I rarely say, well, I'm procrastinating. It's just a word that I typically don't use or think about. But as I started thinking, I'm like, Sophia, you have some examples of when you have. And one of my examples is when I was going for my master certified coach credential, which is a tough credential to get, right? It's the highest credential in our coaching industry. I want to say I hemmed and hawed for about 5 years, maybe longer. And when I started to really, really think about it, because of the help of a friend who asked me, like, Sophia, what's going on? Like, you're a thought leader in this industry. Of course you should have an MCC. Why don't you have this MCC? And as we were having that conversation, it came to me, Chris, that there was fear. But it wasn't fear like fear that I'm not enough, or it was fear of success, right? Because now it's going to be in a group of only 4% out of tens upon tens of thousands of coaches. So it was fear of that, fear of the unknown, being in another group, in another category. And it was also fear of being the only, like the only black woman. And because in our industry, small percentage, but that's what it really came down to. And let me tell you what my secret sauce was. I'm having this conversation with my colleague who's asking me, like, Sophia, what's taking so long? Get this done. We need more Black women as MCCs, as Master Certified Coaches. So these other coaches can see you, learn from you, be inspired by you. And I'm like, still coming up with all these excuses. And finally, she gets annoyed with me, Chris. And she says, thank goodness she's still a good friend of mine. But she says, Sophia, saying about you? I was like, what? My ego was like literally shredded. And I was like, she goes, Sophia, this is not about you. You keep talking about you. Like you don't have the time, or you don't have this, or you're not sure you even see the value in doing it. It's not all about you. It's about those other coaches, up and coming coaches that are going to be inspired by your story, by your journey. I kid you not, Chris, a few weeks later, I put in my application. It's not that I didn't have the hours or the training, like all the requirements. I had all that for a while. I didn't do it. So I would say part of my secret sauce is support. I mean, real support, unfiltered support. And, as a coach, of course, I'm going to say you get that from a coach. Part of our job is tell some of my clients, I've had to tell some of my clients, I'm not trying to be your friend. You're friends. Now, maybe after we stop working together, maybe we will have a friendship. But in this coach-client relationship, I'm not your friend. I'm not just going to tell you stuff that you want to hear. I'm not going to be so concerned about, oh my gosh, did that hurt his feelings? No. I'm going to be relentless about you having what it is you say you want. That's what you hired me for. So having her, she was my friend, she's my colleague, but she's also a coach too. And I credit her all the time, when I talk about reaching that goal, because it was a big, big goal. I credit her all the time for just saying what there was to say, because it was nowhere. My ego had shut out anything else. I also would add rest, Chris. Rest, rest, rest. And so many of my friends and colleagues, I've been talking about rest a lot in this year. And a lot of my friends and colleagues are like, you talking? Because I like to do a lot of things. I like to have a lot of projects, a lot of plates in the air. But I've become very fascinated by this thing called rest. And I mean beyond sleeping. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? If I am well rested in my life, what does that look like? And being well rested certainly helps me to stop procrastinating. Because when I'm tired, emotionally, physically, I'm fatigued, I was like, if somebody a fly on the wall and they were watching me at my desk, try and write this next chapter or try and design this curriculum, they would be like, what is wrong with that lady? Because it's like, I sit down, I get up, sit down, I go look at this, I get distracted by this. Oh my gosh, there's a beautiful bird outside. Oh, I love hummingbirds. I mean, it's wild. And many times when I've been like that or really scattered all over the place and like unable to do things that I could do on my sleep, that I could do easily, it is because of lack of rest and mostly mental rest. So I'm on this rest thing. I've warned yeah, rest.
I love that you said rest. And I keep coming back to something, especially now, since we are in we're in a cycle, right? I mean, it's the beginning of the year still. I mean, it's tax season. Come on, leave me alone until after tax season, right? But we are human beings. We're not human doings, so our worth should not come from the stuff that we do.
Yes. Yes. And for me, forever, as long as I can remember, it did. Because that's all I knew. And that's how I got positive attention in grade school, right? Do. Go be the hall monitor. Get the good grades. Do. And then early in my career, same thing. I mean, a lot of the doing got me promoted because everybody had the same definition of what's going to get you here and here and here. So I'm like, okay, let me do what I need to do to get here, here, and here. And it was a lot of doing. Like there was no conversation. I feel like there really hasn't been a conversation about being except for in the last 20, 25 years. Like nobody was talking about being. I am dating myself. I'm old. No, coming up in college and early in my career, nobody was talking about being. You go into a conference room and you start talking about, I know we have to do all this doing, but let's pause for a moment and let's talk about being. Who are you being right? I would have been kicked out of that conference room and I probably would not have been promoted.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, we do have a lot of, although I think it's kind of a double standard, right? Because we're pushed through to produce
Yes.
until we burn ourselves out, and then we're punished because we burned ourselves out doing the things that you needed to or wanted to have done.
Yes. And the thing is like I'm always wrestling with this because I like doing. And I've grown enough to be unapologetic about it. You can imagine somebody who likes to have a lot of projects, likes to have a lot of plates in the air, is a visionary, and I can come up with 50,000 ideas in 50 minutes, right? That I've gotten a lot of backlash from it, a lot of judgment around it. And so now I'm grateful to say, with a lot of work with coaches and therapists and a lot of soul searching and a lot of conversations with God, I have come to a place of being unapologetic about liking or having so many different passions or having so many passions. They're not always different, but having so many things that I'm passionate about. And at the same time, now I'm looking at, okay, Sophia, that can still be you. And are you rested enough to go enjoy all those passions? But that's what I'm paying attention to. I've been paying attention to that a lot lately. I read this book that I keep telling everybody about. It's going to be everybody's Christmas gift, called Rest is Resistance. It is so powerful, Chris. It's called Rest is Resistance. It's by an author named Trisha Hersey. And I don't get one copper penny for talking about this, but I was so moved by this book that I've just been telling everybody about it. And she talks about rest being true liberation and rest being true freedom. And we can't experience freedom or true liberation or even true joy if we're tired. And I'm not just talking about sleep. So many of us are exhausted. Yeah, we're exhausted physically, but we're exhausted emotionally and mentally. Exhausted. And I don't know about anybody else, but I can't, well, I do know about some other people because I coach them. But it's like, I struggle to create from that place. I really struggle to create from that place. You know, and this last week and a half been just feeling emotionally, mostly mentally tired. And as I told you at the top of our conversation, you know, going to speaking at a conference. Typically, when I go to prepare to speak, I do it naturally. I'm grateful. I feel like I'm anointed to do it. It feels comfortable. I feel like it's a God-given gift for me. I don't get nervous or, you know, I'm confident, all of that. It's just a part of who I am. And yet I struggled. I have been struggling, like, what is it I want to talk about? And I was even going to my laptop and try and outline things I never do. And so finally, a couple of nights ago, I was like, Sophia, what is this about? There's something there. Because typically somebody invites you to be a keynote speaker or come and talk to their team or whatever. You're like, yeah, okay, let's go. You have it already. Sometimes when people look at my notes, my talking points, they may see 4 bullets and some drawing, some doodling, right? That's enough. That's all I need because it is a gift. Yet I was struggling. So I asked myself, you know, like, what's going on? And sometimes I ask my divine team, what would you have me to know? What would you have me to know right now? 'Cause something is off. And I did recognize that it was the emotional and mental fatigue because of all the things that are happening in our country. And I'm the owner of an international school. So all the things happening in the world has been weighing me down. And I cannot create from that space. I can create from that space. That's not true. I can create from that space, but it's not as delicious as when I'm rested. And so I decided, I'm sure I completely frustrated my executive assistant because I was like, sorry. She's like, Sophia, we need to prepare for this. And I was like, sorry, I've got nothing. She's like, what? She's still like puzzled. I'm like, nope, I don't have anything right now. I haven't gotten, and I always, you know, say this a lot in our coach training school and when I'm speaking, like I get direct divine downloads. Bam, go say this. Bam, say this, do this. And I'm like, the volume was turned way down because I wasn't getting it. And I wasn't able to connect to something concrete until I got quiet, got silent. That's one of my secret sauce. Just got silent, got still. And I asked that question, like, what would you have me to know? And then went even further. What would you have me to say to these people? Like, you know, my divine team, you know them better than I do. What is it that they need to hear? And I'm telling you, Chris, I just felt like this big weight come off of me because before my saboteurs were kicking my butt. Like, oh my God, you're going to go speak in front of all these people. Things that I never, ever go through. I mean, those saboteurs, their volume was really high. You don't even know what you're going to talk about. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot create from that place. I have got to go rest. And that's what I did. I had a whole laundry list of things that needed to be done. 2 nights in a row, I said, no, I'm not doing them. I am going to rest. And whatever rest looks like, right? Rest could look different for everybody. For me, it's watching some mindless show. I don't own any TVs, but every now and then I'll watch something on my laptop. And it was just watching some mindless shows. I won't mention the shows because I'm sure they won't appreciate me calling them mindless. But just watching something like, because it allowed me to rest my mind, to not make any decisions. You know, as a business owner, we make a lot of decisions. To not make any decisions, to just be still and not have to worry about a thing just for that moment. And I'm telling you, I can tell the difference. Now I have so many ideas. I'm trying to narrow it down to exactly what I want to talk to them about.
No, I like that you say that, we think about rest, but I mean, I think rest is on everybody's mind. Everybody is,
Yes.
everybody's tired and stuff, but I mean, this is fairly normal too. I mean, we are in, I mean, everything in history is cycles.
Yes.
So I equate to the era that we're in now sort of the same as the Renaissance, the information age, space age, industrial revolution.
Yes.
Although, I mean, we just haven't named it yet.
No.
And I don't know how we're going to name it because there's just so many things happening that I don't know how you're going to label it with one thing that's going on.
I think we should come up with something very creative.
Well, change is uncomfortable. The brain doesn't like to be uncomfortable. Brain likes familiarity. The ego likes to be safe.
Yeah.
Therefore, we've got all this stuff that we know is going to happen because it happens every,
Yeah.
well, I don't know what you have to say, 2,000, 5,000 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, the rise and fall and creation of different things and things that don't work and need to be rebuilt. But yeah, I mean, it's like when you were I don't know if you had this experience in high school. I had it. I know my daughter has it. She'll sit there and she's like, I'm always so tired in math class. It's like, I hate it. I hate being, it's like, I always fall asleep. Like, well, first of all, you got to sleep more at night. And you're worrying about the math class before you sleep. So you don't sleep, so you're not sleeping and you sleep in the math class. It's ultimate irony right there.
Right.
But the second thing is that it's a defense mechanism. We need rest to be able to deal with the uncertainty.
Yes. Yes. You have to have, I don't know any other medicine better than and quicker than mental, emotional, physical rest. I haven't found it, if there is. I haven't found it. And, now, I'm having so many conversations with people. And the first thing I hear is just what you said, what your daughter said. I'm just so tired. Yeah. Like that's usually people's first response. Well, hey, how you doing? How you feeling? What's up? What's going on? I'm just tired. And I just don't believe, because I used to say it all the time, I'm just tired. I'm just tired. And it was not, I wasn't just talking about physical fatigue. I was talking about mentally, emotionally. That's what I'm hearing a lot of. And like you said, changes. The brain does not want change. The brain likes to be left the heck alone, and for the same things to happen that the brain can rely upon. And now we're throwing so much. We are literally the whole kitchen sink at our brains and trying to make sense of it. And that's the thing. We're overworking our brains because we're constantly trying to make sense of our state of affairs. Mm-hmm. And what if there is no sense in it? What if it's just like we talked about earlier? Like, what if it has to happen? Like that Band-Aid has to be ripped off. And I know a lot of other people, and I know, your listening audience can relate to this. A lot of us are like, no, don't rip the Band-Aid off. Well, we need to rip the Band-Aid off so your wound can heal. It can get fresh air. No. I've lived with this Band-Aid for a long time and it's good. And I know it's going to hurt when you rip it off. I have evidence of that. So you can't convince me, Chris, that it's not going to hurt. I have evidence that it's going to hurt. So no, let me go procrastinate ripping off the Band-Aid. Not doing,
I love that you brought up that it's going to hurt. It's very, I think it's very controversial. And I totally don't say it in the right way. But, Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul,
Yes.
the one chapter, I remember when I first cracked up the book, I'm not reading that. Screw this. I almost didn't read the book because I read what the chapter was called. And it was the only path to freedom is through pain. And then almost a really good book, really good read. It was all about this thorn and how instead of pulling the thorn out, we put a band-aid on it. But then we notice we bang our hand on it and it hurts.
Yeah.
So okay, we put a cast around it. Well,
Yeah.
wait, the cast is heavy, so now we get a pole. We put a pole up here so within the cast. But now we don't fit through the door, so now we got to cut the door out. We have to call all our friends and get them to cut their doors so that we can go and see our friends. And we have all this inconvenience, and if we just pulled the damn thing out,
Yeah. And yeah, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt temporarily. But the thing is like fear doesn't know how long it's going to hurt. Fear just has evidence that it hurts. That's so good. The only way to true freedom is through pain. We don't want to hear that.
nope. I know I certainly didn't.
I don't want to hear.
Anyway, Sophia, it's been a really great conversation.
I can't be over already. This is too good.
No, it's not over yet, but we are coming up pretty close to time. And I just want to be sure that we're being respectful of everyone's time. I know you got something you got to get to too.
Yes,
Do you think there's anything that I should have asked but didn't ask, or anything that you feel we should have covered but didn't cover?
No, this has been such a rich discussion and such a timely discussion also. I will leave us with just a challenge, to take a look at your rest and your definition of rest. Like because only you get to say, that's how I say, I'm empowering you, everybody listening, only you get to define what it is. But I want you to have a real conversation with yourself. What's under, I'm tired. What's under the procrastination? Like what's underneath it? And then call yourself forward to choose. You might choose procrastination still. You might choose fear still. But I have a feeling that if you're willing to ask yourself those powerful, open-ended questions as we do in my work of coaching, you might discover some new answers.
Like that. Such a powerful note to end on. Just before we go though, what is the best way that we can get in touch with you? Our listeners can reach out and learn more, or get involved, or ask you what rest is.
Ask me how well I'm resting. So I'm Sophia Casey everywhere. LinkedIn is usually the best way to find me, Sophia Casey. And then our school, ICLI Rising, our website is ICLI Rising. And I'm also on WhatsApp because we're an international school.
Excellent. And to all our listeners, don't worry. We are going to have that in the show notes for you, so you don't have to grab a pen and paper. And once again, Sophia, thank you so much for being on the show. And it was a really great conversation. Really did enjoy it. And all our listeners, thank you again for tuning in. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation or inspiration for someone else. And see you again next time.